928 Gold. Get your gold you can hold from the Oxford Gold Group, 833-928-GOLD.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth, and we're broadcasting live once again from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481. Real pleasure today to meet Dave Muhlbauer, who's in the studio. How are you, Dave?
Doing good. Thanks for having me here today.
And you are running for the United States Senate seat currently held by Chuck Grassley.
That is correct.
What made you run for Senate?
You know, I grew up campaigning. My grandpa Louis was a state representative and a county supervisor in Crawford County. My dad was also followed in his footsteps, was a state rep and a county supervisor, and I followed in their footsteps and became a county supervisor in Crawford. And, you know, growing up campaigning and being a part of those campaigns, and even for myself, deep down and just in the back of my mind and in my heart, I knew that, you know, the U.S. Senate seat is something that could truly make a world of difference to help shape the state of Iowa and even our nation, and really lay the groundwork and the foundation for the opportunity we could have for future generations.
Are you a married guy, Dave?
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
I am.
You have children? And
My wife, Linda, is a librarian in Manning on Main Street there, city librarian, which they are actually moving to a 10,000 square foot building on the north end of Manning. It's going to be a huge expansion. It's going to be a really cool deal. So if you're in Manning, I'm going to unplug the library and go check it out. It's going to be a really neat facility. 3 kids, Chas, Avon, Rosalind. We had them 3 in a row.
All right.
They're going to be 5th, 6th, and 7th grade next year.
Well, you've had a handful then, haven't you?
Right. We didn't have a 4th because my wife, after we had 3 in a row, said we will not have any
Yeah, I'm
more.
getting tired, for God's sake. I'm sure that's what she said. I've been around political people a long time, and what they've always said is that everybody has to be on with a big life change like running for office. Suppose you were elected to the U.S. Senate. That's a huge transition. This isn't Manning you're going to if you do go there. This is a big world that's something that's unknown in the experience of most people who live in Iowa. Is your wife prepared for that? Are your children prepared to go to school in Washington, D.C.? Is this something that you want that bad?
Yes, that's right. In those discussions, you know, Linda and I had multiple discussions about whether or not it's the right time to run and what that would look like. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is a great chance for my kids. I mean, really open up their eyes. They're a part of my campaign trail. And, you know, the details of whether or not what life would look like in DC are things that we would work out. But my kids, you know, they go along with me to parades and county events and social events. And, you know, it's eye-opening for them as well, as it was for me as when I was a kid growing up and campaigning for, you know, my grandpa and dad at state representatives and levels like that.
How old a man are you, Dave?
38.
Okay. I want to run something by you. A couple of weeks ago on WHO Television's Sunday morning program, Insider with Dave Price, I really liked that program. There were a couple of representatives of the parties. One, Jerry Crawford from the Democratic side, and I can't remember the Republican guy, but he's been a big deal in Republican politics here in Iowa for a long time. But both those guys agreed that it's going to be terribly hard for a white man to get the nomination for any federal office in the state of Iowa. Right now, you have to be a woman, it seems, to get the nomination. Is that how big a factor did you assume that would be?
I watched that.
Did you see the same thing?
I did see that. And, you know, they also followed up with that and said that in a general election, they thought that I was a very electable candidate. Somebody that, you know, with a rural background, Western Iowa, farmer, actual farmer. I do my day-to-day life. I don't claim that I visited a farm once. But in a general election, it could be very enticing for the state of Iowa is someone who can draw together our urban and rural areas.
Yeah. Chuck Grassley was in Congress before he was a United States Senator. So he had a little taste for Washington, D.C. before he made the big step up. You don't have that background. You do have, obviously, as you just mentioned, a generational background in politics. Do you think you're ready to make this big a step from where you are now to the U.S. Senate?
You know, Mike, we've had many candidates in the past that didn't serve in any elected position and
That's right.
made the jump.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like
You're talking Donald Trump? Yeah, that was a big jump.
there's others besides him as well.
Sure.
But myself, to me, local matters the most. And I think that a local perspective from a county supervisor or even just a everyday Western Iowa farmer is very important. And to bring that mindset and that frame of reference to DC is something that is truly near and dear to me, that I think that that's the perspective that we need to have, the lens we look through to how we help people in Iowa and moving forward.
You're very pro-immigration, and you've mentioned, in fact, your card will tell me the information on your business card tells us that you would like to see more immigrants to our state. Are you the border situation is awful. Everybody agrees with that now. It's just terrible. And we have a huge migration problem now, and it's going to get out of control beyond our ability as a country to handle if we don't do something soon. Now, why don't you tell us what immigration, illegal immigration looks like, what you would do about the immigration situation?
You know, here's the deal. Crawford County was second most culturally diverse county in Iowa. Very diverse county. Large part of that was because of the packing plants that are located in Denison. Our community, we have seen through generations of cultural diversity that it is actually a stronger community for it. There's a lot of good men and women, families that are there. They're adding to the community. They're making it better. They're part of the economy and the housing market, and they're helping our schools out. Also, the other thing we look at too, Mike, we have a labor shortage. These people want to come here, be a part of our communities, make their lives better, pay into the system. They want to be here legally. We need them.
We also there's also crime associated with illegal immigration. But the main thing, Dave, and I want to talk to you about this, especially here in Fort Dodge. We were a packing plant town, as Waterloo was, as Sioux City was, as Ottumwa still is. There are a lot of packing plants in the state of Iowa that had union labor, and the union workers were able to maintain a pretty good standard of living. We don't have those anymore because of illegal immigrant labor. The main thing with immigrant labor seems to be a desire for cheaper labor, which I think is an unusual stand for a Democrat. Can you respond to that?
You know, I think we have a labor shortage in general. We had a labor shortage before COVID happened. Part of what COVID really did was it had people evaluate their lives and look at possibly reset what is important to me. What field do I want to work in? I want to be happy with where I work at. As far as the unions go, I've been to multiple PRO-ACT rallies with the American Federation of Labor around the state. We just were at one in Sioux City. Why are we not getting the PRO-ACT passed? That is something that will truly help with our unions to have their voice to be heard and to organize.
So, in answer to the question of what should we do about the border, what would be your response?
You know, of course we need to have a secure border, and of course the people that are coming here that want to make their lives better and contribute to our communities and our towns, and they don't want the violent ones and the criminals either. Mm-hmm. And there is no one silver bullet. But there are multiple things that need to be done at the same time. We need to secure our border and the fact that we keep the violent ones out. We need to be working with those countries in South America and Mexico on the crime and the cartels, and looking into really getting at the roots of why are these people fleeing their countries? What is happening that they're leaving because they're fearful of their lives? And, you know, it's truly a humanitarian crisis.
I do have a tough question for you. Do you believe, as some, myself included, that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class in Iowa?
No. I think you see the Democrats fighting for things like the PRO-ACT, fighting for things like the infrastructure bill. Those are all things that would create thousands upon thousands of good paying jobs and give them the voice to be heard through unions.
Dave Mulbauer is our guest. He's running for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate seat now held by Chuck Grassley. I believe you have another person who is trying to be the next Democratic Party nominee. Is that, what is her name again? She was a congressperson up in Northeast Iowa. You don't want to say her name.
No, that's fine. I welcome her too. Abby Finkenauer.
Finkenauer
jumped in, and we also had another one.
There's another one now. Okay.
Did he announce? I thought he announced. Glenn Hurst.
I did hear that Glenn Hurst was
Yep.
in.
We talked with both of them different times. That's democracy. That is what is great, that we have multiple options and that people want to step up and here's who I am. And that's what I'm going to be, who I am as a farmer and a Western Iowa farmer and county supervisor. And I'm going to be my part to give people an option.
I was asking that question kind of as a lead up to this question. Why should you be the nominee rather than the other people? And there probably will be other people seeking the nomination as well. Why should you be the candidate?
Well, if you want a candidate that my roots are agriculture and county government, local government, I'm the guy for you. I'm the guy that, to me, it matters. Our voice matters on a local level. I'm not somebody that's going to get up there. I'm not taking corporate PAC money from anybody. It's a grassroots effort. We've had over 1,000 different people contribute to our campaign, and that's gone very well. So that's the people's voice on the ground being heard.
Dave, I'm going to give you a laundry list here of hot button social issues. Okay. The parties have pretty much staked out their position, both parties, for on any number of social issues. And we're kind of going to go through them and you tell me your position. Gun rights, for example. State of Iowa seems to be a very pro-guns state right now. Are you in favor of gun rights as they're understood in Iowa today?
Well, I'm a gun owner. My daughters are pretty good little sharpshooters with the 22. We shoot targets all the time.
Farm girls, I like
Farm
that.
Girls, that's right. But at the end of the day, 95% of Americans want a universal background check. We need to have a system that has common sense.
Okay.
We need to, the vast majority of gun owners realize the responsibility that goes with it. And a lot of them are fine with having taking a class and having a license issued by a sheriff. That was a system. Now we don't have that at all.
No, we don't. And I always had a problem, and I'd like you to respond to this. I always had a problem with county sheriffs in Iowa having the final say on who gets a carry permit, a concealed carry permit. They might not like you. They might not like your family or your grandfather, your father got in some trouble as a young man. You know how it is in rural communities. You're from one. I grew up in a very rural community. Oh, I don't think we should give that person a gun permit. Their cousin went to prison once or to jail once. You know what I'm talking about. What the people the pro-gun people are talking about is a constitutionally protected right to carry a gun for a law-abiding citizen. Would you be in favor? Or is that your position or not?
I haven't seen that directly in Crawford County. Our Sheriff Jim Steinkuhler.
I wasn't trying to make it personal.
No, but I'm just saying I haven't
yeah.
seen that actually happen. Give me proof that a sheriff denied somebody because of a personal vendetta. I haven't seen that.
Do you deny that ever happened? Because it probably did somewhere.
But the sheriff is also another level of a layer that they know their communities.
Yes, they do.
They know who's dealing drugs, and they know where things are happening and not happening. So they have their thumb on that pulse.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Abortion rights are headed back to the U.S. Supreme Court. There's a feeling by many people that the Supreme Court will not uphold Roe versus Wade. And that would send the whole abortion rights situation back to, yes, the Congress. You might have to vote if you're elected, if you're the nominee and you're elected, on abortion rights. How do you feel about that sort of thing?
Here's the thing with abortion. It is a very hot topic, isn't it? And the fact is what really is troublesome is when we take funding away from education and from support and healthcare, women's healthcare. We've seen in Iowa, we defunded Planned Parenthood and abortions went up by 25%. In the recent study, the next year after that went up by another 14%.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge increase in abortions by not funding the needs that women need to make the right choice, or to make a good choice for themselves.
All right, we're going to talk about climate change just for a minute. What your position is on climate change? Then we're going to talk about agriculture. Your position on climate change, could you give that to us?
Yeah, it's climate is extremely important to Iowa and to farmers because that's our livelihood. Agriculture is the base of Iowa, and there are a number of tools that farmers we can use and are starting to use to help combat climate change, to sequester carbon. Our watersheds and our waterway, cover crops are helping filter our water systems. It's helping with our soil health and longevity of what our soil will produce for high quality food for our generations to come. The thing is, we need to work at making sure that those programs are available through the USDA. You're seeing carbon credits being carbon companies are popping up, and they're dealing with carbon credits. Actually, carbon credits are going to be traded on the CME.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Yep. So there is a direction that farmers are starting to move towards helping out in our climate change issues, and farmers have a huge opportunity to make a big impact on our globe and our environment.
All right, Dave Mulbauer is our guest. He's a candidate for the Democratic nomination to be a U.S. Senator. Let's talk ag now, because that's really your backyard. Before we leave. Well, this is more ag related. How about the Waters of the USA Act? There's a lot of farmers in this area are concerned about Waters of the USA Act. Are you familiar with that?
Right. Yes. Farmers are trying to do their part to not only run their farm, live their life, do the best. Farmers are the best stewards of the land we have, but we have to give them more resources and give them the opportunity and the tools and toolbox that help with our water quality, that help with our soil health and our climate change. We do that, we have to be up front in front of them. Right now, I just talked to our NRCS in Crawford County, and I'm looking at flying on cover crop here in August on my corn and bean fields. We don't know if the money is going to be there or not to help offset the cost of planting a cover crop, cereal rye. So
really,
yeah, it's not always there. It kind of comes and goes in spurts, is the way Lennis said it. But whether it's CSP program or EQIP program, or even our state IDLES program has 160 acres that they'll pay up to so much money per acre to help offset that cost. If those programs aren't funded and aren't available and easily accessible, guys aren't going to do those programs.
We have a lot of pork producers in our area, and they're all good people. What the pork industry, especially, and you're in the cattle business, in addition to being a grain farmer, pork and beef both depend on exports for a good share of their profits. What would you do as far as the import market is concerned to protect that market and encourage more exports of our ag commodities?
Right. Yeah, exports are huge to us into our markets. Right now, in the cattle, we don't have country of origin labeling, the COOL Act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So you look at the cattle industry, pork too, but in the cattle industry, 85% of our beef is controlled by 4 big corporations.
That's outrageous. Something should be done.
And on the 15% of that open market, when I feel like as a cattleman, when they don't want to pay up for a price because there's a shortage or there's more demand in the grocery store that we see, they flood the market with subpar South American or Mexican beef. And then they bring it into US and rebox it and stamp it as US.
Yeah.
So we need some transparency.
We need a little transparency.
And I did see Secretary Vilsack announced, which is a step in the right direction, that they're going to put $500 million towards smaller processing plants in our rural areas or across the state of Iowa. That'll help with some of the regulation costs, so that these local butchers and processing plants can start to get back up and going again. And, that would help with our resiliency and our food supply too. We saw that with COVID. Look at when one packing plant got shut down, how that rippled out into our food supply chain. Mm-hmm. But yet back in the day, when every small town had its own local locker, if we had COVID in that era, you'd go down 7 miles down the road to your next locker and go pick up what you needed. So we don't have that structure in place anymore because of the consolidation that has really hurt our farmers.
Dave Mulbauer is our guest. Dave, you're about 40 years younger than Chuck Grassley. How big a factor is the age situation as far as you see it? If you were to face Chuck Grassley, how would you handle that?
Well, yeah, I am. I'm 38 years old. Just turned 38 July.
He's
10th.
87. Yeah,
He's 87. I feel like I'm in a great spot. I'm healthy. I'm energetic. I mean, hard work does not scare me away by any means. I feel like I'm in a very, very good spot with my wife and my kids to run a very aggressive campaign.
Are you? I got to ask a question from my old pothead friends here. I guess Illinois and a lot of other states, Washington, are now selling marijuana legally. Would marijuana be a good cash crop for farmers, or are you in favor of a national law to allow marijuana farming in this country?
Industrial hemp is another.
Well, my grandfather did that, but that's
let me touch on it.
Okay.
I'll get back to what you want to talk about with marijuana, but industrial hemp could be a huge tool in our toolbox as a crop, as a rotational crop that we could use. And quite frankly, we import billions of dollars worth of industrial hemp products. Why not have that here and have the facilities and the processing plants that, turn industrial hemp into many, many different products, textiles, paper products. There's thousands of different things that are processed out of industrial hemp.
Well, is it classified as a legal crop, or is it?
They're working on that. Like right now, there's only there's a certification. There's only a few acres that are allowed to be in the industrial hemp process right now.
Because the government used to pay my grandfather on his farm north of here to grow hemp. They made rope with it, which was important to the Navy. He actually had a Navy contract, I think. But the government, again, paid for the growing of industrial hemp.
Wouldn't that be great if we could have that as a product?
That would be a great thing.
Grow here in Iowa again.
I'm all for diversifying our crops. There's nothing wrong with having corn and soybeans. But, it would be great to have another cash crop, which brings me to recreational marijuana. No matter how you feel about people getting high with marijuana, how would that be a good cash crop for farmers in Iowa?
I'm not sure the details of what it would look like, of how that structure would work of growing it in Iowa or not. But as far as legalizing it, I'm in the camp, put a framework around it, tax it, and regulate it.
Oh God, yes. That's what I think.
And then look at the states that have the amount of money that they receive in revenue off of that tax. And then you can turn around and use that revenue towards our education systems and our healthcare and mental health and, different things that truly help people.
A high school friend of mine lives in Spokane, Washington. I've told this story several times, and they made recreational marijuana legal in Washington State. There's regular marijuana stores. They're like little convenience stores all over the state of Washington. And I asked my friend about the economic impact on the state of Washington. He said the first year, $250 million, and most of it went to education.
Wow.
Now that's significant.
That's a huge chunk of.
I realize a lot of people have a problem with using marijuana or growing marijuana, and they would like to keep it illegal. But these are real figures that we have to consider.
The other thing too, Mike, on that, look at our opioid epidemic.
That's true.
We have a tremendous amount of health problems with opioid addiction and things like that. And, in states that legalize it, I think that's helped to give another alternative to people that are fighting pain and cancer situations and things like that truly help people.
I'm not trying to wear you out, Dave. I'm going a little long, but I want to give you every opportunity to talk about your positions to the folks in this area. And you're certainly welcome back at any time. Just to kind of put a big exclamation point on this, what could you do if you were a U.S. Senator to improve the lives of people who live in rural areas in the state of Iowa?
Right. Go down to my list. I talk about agriculture and what we just talked about with enforcing country of origin labeling, antitrust laws, Packer Stockyard Act, things like that truly enhance our family farmers, not the corporations that are taking the profit off the farm. Looking at ways that we can add to agriculture, whether it's industrial hemp or something along those lines. Our environment, that's something that all Iowans, we're all in this together, making sure that we have USD farm programs that help entice the practices that improve our environment. Education is something that we got to invest in for the future, and making sure that it's an investment for our kids, because that's what they need to be competitive, not just here in Iowa, but globally. Infrastructure is a huge thing right now that, coming off of COVID, we know people can work remotely. We need to really capture that here in Iowa, grow out our broadband internet, but not just roads and bridges, but our internet and our electrical grids and what we do. Our cybersecurity should be part of that as well. I mean, on another note, but that would create jobs right here in Iowa, good paying jobs that lift our main streets up again, and get our economy really going. And then healthcare and mental health. Those are things that, in a rural area, if we continue to see the rural areas dry up and these critical access hospitals make a tougher and tougher go at it, and if they close down, you're seeing people have to drive farther and farther to get healthcare access. That's important to Iowans, so they can have that accessible and close by.
There's been a lot of division in our state and in our country. Red, blue states, that sort of thing. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground. Is there something a U.S. senator could do about that?
You're right. And I think when I talk to a lot of people, I'm making a lot of phone calls and stops and just being out there. And that's part of how I want to run my campaign. It's just face to face, make that relationship, make that connection. People are tired of the radical divisiveness. They flat out are. They're sick of it. And, at the end of the day, when you sit down with folks, they want to hear about issues that help them out. And what are my kids going to see for an education? What's that going to look like? What is my healthcare? How are we going to receive healthcare? What is that access to healthcare going to look like? Am I going to have is our roads and bridges going to be good enough to travel down the state? They want to focus on issues. And I think it's just been enough is enough. And
I know what you mean, Dave.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to focus on those everyday issues.
Dave Mulbauer is running for the U.S. Senate. Actually, he's running for the Democratic nomination to oppose Chuck Grassley or whoever the nominee on the Republican side is. Dave, it's been a pleasure to meet you, and thank you.
Mike, thanks for having me.
This is AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Small businesses across Iowa are continuing to show up for you. They're adapting, they're donating, they're keeping their doors and their hearts open to assist their employees and serve their customers, just like they always have. Small businesses are the backbone